I know that there's supposed to be a quarterback battle in New England. I saw what Mac Jones did. I saw what he's done in his 2 preseason games. I also saw what Cam Newton did last night. Hold the horses. Cam, oh Cam, doesn't appear to be going anywhere. Lots to talk about with the crew. First takes in the house. Let's go.
You and I, we are not alike. No, you don't shine when they hit the lights. I don't make myself bleed for this life, and these kind of nights. You just okay, but I'm kind of nice.
Throws a man down. It's called a dodge, and he catches him. Guns it long for the end zone. Touchdown!
So Greeny called it a football Friday. It is that, but it is also a feel-good Friday. Getting you set for the weekend here on First Take. Stephen A. Smith out west, Max Kellerman. How we doing? I'm Molly
There's
Karen
more
Rose.
action this summer somehow.
Right?
Maybe it's because last year because of COVID, but it feels like there's action.
Well, there's a
every day
lot
this
of
summer.
quarterback battles as well.
Yeah.
So I think that
it's
has
got a
something
lot
to
to do
do
with
with
the
good
fact.
rookies.
I think it's got a lot to do with being in comparison to last year when COVID hit and there was so much inaction. And I think it's a bit more normal this year, at least closer to normal. I think that has a lot to do with it personally. That's just me.
It turns out normal's pretty good.
Yeah, we're here for all of it. So let's do this.
Especially out here. Yeah.
All right.
The Patriots routed the Eagles 35-0 in their preseason bout on Thursday. Philadelphia was without quarterback Jalen Hurts, who was a last-minute scratch due to a stomach infection. Cam Newton started under center for New England. The veteran took some more chances downfield this week in comparison to his preseason debut last week against Washington. As for the new face in the Patriots quarterback room, Mac Jones, he completed 13 of 19 passes, just as he did last week, leading the offense to 3 touchdowns in the 4 drives he was on the field. Here's Sal Pal on the Patriots quarterback.
Very impressed, obviously, with Cam Newton. He was nearly perfect. His one incompletion was a drop. He was 8 for 9. He had a touchdown pass. The key thing is he operated from the pocket cleanly. His ball has plenty of zip. As for Mac Jones, he's really pushing Cam Newton. Showed cool command again tonight, and that was clear in talking to the players and coaches after the game. Cam Newton knows, he understands Mac Jones was drafted number 15 overall to be the starting quarterback at some point. But Cam Newton has earned the respect of his coaches and his teammates, and so these guys right now are really battling.
Stephen A., are you surprised by what Cam's doing?
I'm a little surprised. When again, the one incompletion was the drop. Max, you want to go first? Or, I got this if you want me to.
I mean, I was not surprised. So what would you rather hear about?
I'm just saying I was a bit surprised because I got to tell you, to almost be perfect is not something I ever expect to hear associated with Cam's passing ability. Again, I am one that has revered his athleticism, his athletic prowess, his heart, his leadership ability, how players rally around him, how they love playing with him, how they love having him as a teammate, et cetera, et cetera. The only thing that I've decried over the years is his inaccuracy. I don't think that he's the most accurate thrower in the world. He certainly didn't look that way last night. His passes were pinpoint, like Sal Palantonio said. The one incompletion was a drop. I mean, when you look at the way he was moving the offense, played 3 series, got a touchdown score, was near perfect, obviously, pretty close to perfect. I look at that Cam Newton and I say that's an aberration. If that Cam Newton is the dude that we're going to be seeing throwing a football like that, then Mac Jones ain't going to be playing this year. It's just that simple. I just don't anticipate that will be the case. As good as Cam Newton has played the 1 year when Norv Turner was his offensive coordinator in Carolina, and he completed nearly 68% of his passes. Last year, he completed 65% of his passes. Obviously, it was a tough season because of COVID and everything else. For the most part, though, in his career, he's hovered around being a 60% completion passer. And so for me, that's not that impressive. Anytime I see him throwing a football accurately on a consistent basis, I think that is an aberration. It's a bit of a surprise, but I'm happy to see it because I'm certainly not rooting against him. I'm rooting for him. I just don't think it's something that you can depend on consistently. That's why I was a bit surprised by what I saw last night, but pleasantly so.
I was not surprised at all. I've been trying to tell people, Stephen A., it's the old Roy Jones song, remember? Y'all must have forgot. Y'all must have forgot. Y'all must have forgot Cam Newton. People are acting like he's a bum. Cam Newton was the MVP of the NFL, took a team to the Super Bowl. And that was not his best passing season.
That's right.
To your credit, that season, afterward, I said, he's an elite quarterback. He said, I want to see that more consistently. And he wasn't consistent enough. Until, and you mentioned it, they went and got Norv Turner as his offensive coordinator. And all of a sudden, Cam Newton was having the best passing season of his career. He still had his physical gifts. They were winning until he got hurt. He was ascending until he got hurt. And what we have seen since then has never been Cam Newton because he was hurt. He missed the season. He came back off of catastrophic injury in a COVID year to a new team where they had 9 defections off the defense because of COVID off the defense, where the offense was so bereft of talent that Tom Brady finally said, I can't take it anymore, right? Hey, Bill Belichick, you're not drafting offensive talent. You're not spending the money when I redo my deal to get me weapons. I can't take it anymore. I got to go. And on that team, Cam Newton, think back to the Seattle game that he lost. Remember when Bobby Wagner made that goal line play? How did Cam Newton look in that game? Because that was one of the crispest games I felt was played last year. And Cam and Russell Wilson both looked like superstars. I wouldn't say Russell Wilson looked better than Cam. Cam looked great. And then he got COVID. So no preseason, no practice, facility shut down, and the man himself got COVID. And then he suffered from what everyone calls a COVID fog. And we speculated about that based on his play after he got COVID before he even said anything about it. So it was apparent to us. Still, 2 plays away from 9 and 7. Now he has that experience under his belt. He comes in, there is practice. There is a preseason. He was ascending before he got hurt, and he's still Cam Newton. We're treating him like he's just a guy. He is not a jag. He is a former MVP, and he will not go quietly. I was not surprised by that performance.
He is a former MVP, Max, who has given us moments of being just another guy. That is the reality of the situation. Let's take into account his Super Bowl season because you bring up the year he won league MVP. It was the same year they went 15-1 and went to a Super Bowl before Von Miller and those boys in Denver handled their business and Carolinas in the Super Bowl. That year, Max Kellerman, yes, Cam Newton threw. I got the numbers right here in front of me. He threw for 3,837 yards, had 35 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, Max Kellerman, okay? He completed 59.8% of his passes. 59.8%. That same year, Max, he ran the football 8.25 times. 8.25 times per game. Had 16, I'm talking 16 games. He had like 636 yards rushing. So he had, and scored 10 touchdowns via the run. This dude was establishing himself as a guy who was a dual threat, and everybody knew it because Cam could run over you, he could run around you, okay? Plus, he could throw the football a little bit, and we understood that. What I've religiously stated about him, take accuracy throwing the football out of the equation, and everything else about him as a football player, you absolutely have to love and marvel at. But he plays the quarterback position. And at some point in time, the accuracy, your ability to be accurate and complete passes has to matter. And so, yes, 2 of the last 3 seasons that he's played, it's been highly respectable because it's been above 65% completion. And I get all of that. But when you've spent the vast majority of your career not being that accurate, and then somebody like Mac Jones comes from Alabama as a reigning national champion, okay? And by the way, who can throw that football and looks Tom Brady-esque per se, looks very comfortable standing in that pocket and flinging that football. And you hear those footsteps. It's a credit to Cam that Cam has stepped up to the challenge and has answered the call. The real question we're asking is, do you believe it's something that he can do consistently enough
for a year
to ward off Mac Jones for the year?
Yeah,
and I don't know about that yet.
For a year or 2, maybe? I don't know. Like,
hold on. I'm definitely not saying 2.
He's going.
I'm only saying now. I don't think that Cam will even be there next year.
he's going to hit a rough patch at some point this year, and there will be a controversy. There'll be calls for Mac Jones, and I don't know that Belichick ever goes to Mac Jones. The thing about Cam is, look, you're going to run Josh McDaniels' offense. You're going to run a Bill Belichick offense with no tight ends, which is basically what they did last year. They had no talent. They spent a lot of money, and two of the main targets were two talented veteran tight ends, right? That's going to make a big difference for Cam. Cam can throw the ball down the field. There's no question about that. And can he do it consistently enough? When you talk about his success at Carolina and the running of the ball, well, he can still do that. He's not the long-term solution in New England based on his age and the attrition, because he had a very physical style of play, and the kind of quarterback Belichick's usually looking for has not been Cam, or at least we presume he's looking for, has not been Cam throughout his career. But in Carolina, the reason he ran the ball so much and the reason he didn't have an even better, completion percentage, that's not all on Cam. His best receiver was his tight end, and his best running back was him. They did not have a lot of offensive weapons in Carolina. And I don't care how you get the job done, are you winning or not. Cam was consistently quarterbacking, winning teams that made the playoffs and won playoff games. And he's back. Cam is back.
Listen, they got Henry Hunter from the Chargers. They got Smith from Tennessee as your tight ends. Those are the two tight ends that you were talking about.
Hunter Henry.
They picked up Hunter Henry. I'm sorry. They picked up Nelson Aguilar, former Philadelphia Eagle, former Raider. They got him. I got that. They got some additional weapons. What I'm saying to you, though, Max, is this. Who have you seen that has gone out there and said, Cam Newton, the athlete, I'm not even talking about the passing now, because you know how I feel about him passing the football. That Cam Newton, the athlete, is the same dude. There's been
he's a little diminished.
Of course he's a little diminished, okay? I mean, some would say more than a little bit. Now, I think that he can still get it done. But he's not going to run the football the way that he used to. Let's call that what it is. Let's call that what it is.
Listen, he's 32 years old. He's taken a lot of licks.
No, I was just talking your point when you said that, he ran the football. He can still do that. I'm saying to you, no, I don't know if that's the case anymore.
Oh, I
don't know if that's the case anymore.
He's still a threat to run the ball.
He's still better than most running the football, but he's not the threat that he once was. And when you combine that with the inaccuracy throwing the football, at least what I expect to be the inaccuracy throwing the football, I don't think that spells, that bodes well for him. I definitely think we can see Mac Jones this year.
What's the evolution of a successful player who ages, who turns from one type of player to another? He's a big physical runner with a big, strong arm who was not the most accurate guy in the world. He was already transitioning under Norv Turner as his OC into a guy who could pass the ball better from the pocket, and his completion percentage was going up. It's just like in any sport. In baseball, you got a power pitcher early. Eventually, he's got to pound the strike zone more. They're going to hit more home runs, but he'll walk fewer guys.
He was the man in Carolina.
He turns into a different kind of player. Cam is not going to run as much, but he's still a threat. He's going to pass the ball better.
I feel you. He was the man in Carolina. There are footsteps stomping in his direction in New England, and a local audience that's craving for it. I don't think it's the same situation.
Patriots have the third best odds to win the AFC East. That would be behind the Bills and the Dolphins. Gentlemen, after months of silence, Aaron Rodgers has been opening up more of late. He sat down with Adam Shine on SiriusXM Radio for an exclusive interview.
Love me some Adam.
Here's a peek into that convo. You too.
I just felt like I needed a sign or a feeling that would make me go from somewhere in the middle to completely all in. No, I was training as if I was going to play. I feel like that was the most important thing to do, was to make sure if it came down to it and I really wanted to play, that I was ready. So I never stopped training. But yeah, there were definitely times where I was thinking about what kind of travel I'd be able to do and want to do, and what I'd be thinking about and doing, not being at training camp. But came down to it, I really wanted to be here for this year, and I don't want to get stuck, thinking about the past or the future, but also not stuck in the present to where I can't have an appreciation for what we've accomplished here over the years, and what I've accomplished personally, and the legacy, and the 16 plus years of a special relationship, and also look to the future. And the future doesn't mean, elsewhere or playing here. It's like, how can I continue to leave this place in a better spot than when I found it?
Max, what do you make of what Aaron Rodgers had to say?
Look, I know everyone's already made up their minds, that he's already made up his mind. But I'm telling you, Aaron Rodgers seems to be giving a little insight into the way his mind works. What he seems to be saying to me is, that I may feel a certain way now, but my mind is open. Show me something. Now, you asked me, do I think Aaron Rodgers is done in Green Bay after this year? Yes. Yes. You know, if you wanted to bet me, I'd take that bet. You know, I'd lay odds because it's very, very likely he's done. But he seems to be saying that he is open-minded about possibilities, that he is optimistic about the future, about people. If they can show him something, if I'm Gutekunst, again, whatever the odds are, I'm thinking, let me see if I can convince this guy. And I've been saying it, Stephen A., since the beginning. The major issue to me is the Packers were going to decide the way this thing ends. And Aaron Rodgers made it very clear, no, my mind is the one. The decisions I make up here, that will decide how all this ends. And to me, that's the same message. This is what I'm thinking, so this is how it is. If you want it to be a different way, change the way I think, but I'm the decider.
Okay. I can't disagree with, the thought process or anything like that, the things that you just highlighted. What I would tell you is what I deduced from what he said. And it was simple. I got a foot out the door. This is my last year in Green Bay. I'm not thinking about really coming back here. Okay? Now, as a result, you're going to have people like my boy Jeff and others, they're done with him. They're done with him. They'll listen to that message. They believe it was incoherent. They'll call him a spoiled brat and all of this other stuff.
Is Jeff a Packers guy?
No.
Jeff's not a Packers guy.
No, he's not. He's a New York Jets guy. So I don't even know why he would have a comment about Aaron Rodgers. That same Jeff would bow at the altar to have Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback if he was smart.
Yeah, right.
Okay?
I met Jeff. I met the whole family.
Which he is very smart. The Browns, no doubt about it. But here's the deal. Having said all of that, I don't blame him. And I know I've gone off about Green Bay, and I've said all I've had to say about that. But people that interview Aaron Rodgers, what they need to understand is that it's about the season, performing at an elite level, and then positioning himself to be the most marketable free agent out there next season, or just, somebody that's just going to get himself out of Green Bay, rather. This is what it comes down to. He is not happy with the hierarchy of the Green Bay Packers. And he's making it very, very clear. And for people that would malign him in any way, understand he's just not happy with them. They're keeping him there. Do you understand that it is time for us to recognize? I mean, we've said it, we've alluded to it, but let me make it very plain for everybody, Max and Molly. The Green Bay Packers are keeping Aaron Rodgers against his will. Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to be there. He's there now because he had no choice. Aaron Rodgers made it very, very clear he wanted out. Green Bay said, no, we ain't losing you. And that's why he's there. Because he only had one other option, and that was to retire and not play football this year. Other than that, he had no choice to play for the Green Bay Packers. Now ask yourself, if you're working on a job, okay, and you still want to perform at that chosen profession, just not for that specific employer, okay, and you are literally being forced to be there, you're going to sit up there and you're going to go all out because you're going to show respect for the game and your teammates and what have you. But what he's doing is reminding everyone periodically, I don't want to be here. I just want to play football, and I had no choice
but to be here. What did he say there specifically? What did he say there? What did he say there specifically that leads you to believe? Like, take the outside knowledge out of it, because you were saying you were keying in on what he just said. What about what he said leads you to believe that that's the message this time?
Just the whole tenor, Max. Nothing, no specific words, Max. Just his whole tenor, his demeanor. Look at him talk about the team in the past. Listen to him talk now. You know, you can't listen to his comments with the great Adam Shine and then ignore all the things that we've been hearing Aaron Rodgers say over the last few weeks. We heard him. We saw the press conference. We heard his comments. We hear why he feels the way that he feels. We know who he specifically has an axe to grind with. We know all of this already. But for a lot of people to be up here talking about him and really trying to dissect and parse words on, he don't want to be there. He is being fought. The Packers said, if you want to play football, it's going to be right here at Lambeau Field in the Green Bay Packers uniform, at least for this season. That's what you're going to do if you want to play football. Other than that, retire. Those were his options.
What I hear, the words he says, whenever he makes a comment, he talks about how the future is uncertain. He usually talks about essential optimism about people. He talks about relationships and communication. To me, these are all breadcrumbs. He's leaving a trail for Gutekunst in particular, I believe. Look, dude, this is how, like, if you want to have any shot, this is how you do it. That's why I'll say things like, when these things come up, how hard would it be for Gutekunst, instead of saying something like the things he's been saying, I'm trying to remember Gutekunst's phrasing. We've never had conversations like that. Remember when he's bringing up whatever player he may want? We never had Clay Matthews.
Oh, bringing Clay Matthews back. Yeah, he said we didn't have those discussions.
Right, we didn't have those discussions. How hard would it be for Gutekunst to say, you know what? I was not aware that Aaron Rodgers had said that publicly. But if that's something he's saying publicly, I'm going to make myself aware of it, and we need to talk about it. I'm the GM. I'll make the decisions. But I absolutely want to hear his input. If this experience has taught me anything, I want to hear what he has to say. I'm sure he has a good reason. We're going to talk about it.
Max,
nothing like that from Gutekunst.
Molly Max, I know that 2023, the year 2023 of Aaron Rodgers' contract was voided. What about 2022? Isn't he still under contract for next season?
No, he can get out.
No, he can get out after the season.
He can get out. Yeah. He can get out. I know it's voided 2023.
That was part of what the tweak was. Yeah.
Because what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, he's letting you know this is it. He's not staying in Green Bay. I don't think it's about, Gutekunst, you could do something to change this around or whatever. He doesn't like them. If somebody, they've treated him the way that they've treated him.
I bet you if they got rid of Gutekunst and they won a Super Bowl, maybe he'd stay.
Okay, now we're talking.
Right? Now we're talking.
But by the way,
now we're talking.
They might win a Super Bowl. Like, they're among a handful of teams that really might win the Super Bowl this year.
That's different. I'm just saying. You're talking about.
I'm just saying. If you want to make
he
people
didn't like being gone. I mean, it's a different ballgame.
It's a different deal, right? All right. Still ahead on First Take. People don't forget, especially LeBron, who is taking down all the disrespect heading his way ahead of the season. What will LeBron's response be? Also, LeBron isn't the only one who may be getting slept on. How about those Steelers? Published a survey this week that polled 10 anonymous executives and scouts. The best player in the NBA was among those topics, and the poll was split between Giannis Antetokounmpo and Kevin Durant. King James received 0 votes. He certainly took notice, not feeling the honorable mention. He took to Twitter on Thursday to say thanks for giving him some added motivation, tweeting this: "Thank you, as if I needed more gas. #washed. #frown emoji." Max, tell me this. What does LeBron have to do to silence the haters?
Beat the Nets. How's that? Try that. Beat the Nets. Beat KD and the Nets. That'll silence the haters. By the way, he'll be the underdog to do it, no doubt. Think about if you switch teams, though. Let's say LeBron's teammates were Harden and Kyrie, and KD's were Westbrook, or reuniting, let's just say, with Westbrook and AD. Imagine if you would have given Westbrook and KD, once they reached their peaks, AD on that team. Ooh. You think about it a little differently. You think the Lakers' chances, at least I do, got a little better because of the way KD shoots the ball. Now the shooting problem goes away a little bit. Yeah, LeBron would be the underdog against the Nets. I expect the Nets at full strength to be unmatched. But he's not without chances, LeBron. Westbrook is a great player. With warts and all, he's a great player. AD is a great player. And LeBron, last I recall, was considered by many the MVP last year until he started slowing down due to injury. By many, the MVP last year. This would not be the first time, Stephen A., LeBron James has done something like this. In 2016, He beat the 73-win Warriors team, a team in Game 7 where LeBron James won Finals MVP, a team that Kevin Durant's OKC Thunder took to a Game 7 at Oracle and failed to beat. He beat the 73-win team on the road that KD couldn't beat. And he beat Steph Curry and everyone, and he was the undisputed king of basketball. You want to be that again? Because I get where LeBron's coming from. It's one thing if there's a unanimous selection of someone else. Then LeBron has a little less to complain about. But if votes are going to two different guys and he gets none, I see why he's upset, because he's certainly in the mix with KD and Giannis. Certainly in the mix. In fact, when I brought that up, I remember you and I think it was Perk getting on me for including Giannis in that mix. But I felt after that finals performance, Giannis has to be in the mix with KD and LeBron. So I get where LeBron is coming from. You want to silence the haters? Beat Brooklyn. That'll silence the haters.
Let me say this to you, Max Kellerman. First of all, I can respect the fact that LeBron James is insulted. He's on the Mount Rushmore of basketball, make no mistake about it. One of the top two or three greatest players of all time, him, MJ, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I don't think anybody will question that at this point in his career. It's plain and simple. He's on the Mount Rushmore. Having said all of that, I can understand LeBron James being insulted about the Greek Freak, comparisons to the Greek Freak. He has no business being insulted about Kevin Durant. Could y'all, let me be very, very clear. Let me look into the camera and say this stuff. Kevin Durant is the best player in the world. Period. There is no NBA player, including LeBron James, at this point in time, that is a better player than Kevin Durant in the world. Nobody. Now let me say this. If you're LeBron, I can understand why you're going to be upset about the Greek Freak. Because, see, I'm looking at LeBron James' numbers here. 26, 27, 27, 25, 25 over the last 4 or 5 years, okay? And we see what he shoots from the field. And even though he's a different player than the Greek Freak, he's a creator. Even though we saw Greek Freak passing the ball exceptionally well in the finals against Phoenix, he deserves a lot of credit for that. And we saw the monster game he had in the closeout game, particularly hitting 17 to 19 free throws, which we never thought we'd see from him in our lifetime. Okay? We get all of that. But in the end, when you look at LeBron James the playmaker, LeBron James the facilitator, LeBron James the basketball savant that exploits mismatches like it's going out of style, LeBron James the greatest passer in the game as far as I'm concerned. When you look at all the elements of his game and what he brings to the table, there is simply no denying how special LeBron James is, the kind of effect and impact he has on the game of basketball. And there's no way on earth that two players should definitively be rated ahead of him to the point where he receives no votes from the executives and scouts. No votes. There's no excuse for that, okay?
Stephen A., this is where I'm confused, though. LeBron has the same numbers, if not better, than Kevin Durant last season. I'm looking at him right now.
Well, I'm not looking at just numbers.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at just numbers, because you see, if I was looking at just numbers, Molly, I could sit up there and go to the free throw line as well, because I keep bringing that up because that matters and people ignore the fact. See, when you can't hit free throws, Molly, and LeBron James over the last 3 years, let me make sure I have this right on point here. LeBron James over the last 3 seasons, 66.5%, 69.3%, 69.8%. He hasn't hit 70% of his free throws the last 3 years and 4 of the last 5 years. Why does that matter? Because what happens is, if I have questions about you from the free throw line, number one, I can lay off you and dare you to hit perimeter shots. Number two, when you get to the basket, I can simply foul you and send you to the free throw line as opposed to letting you convert shots at the basket. Number three, and more importantly, because of that, as the game wanes and crunch times arrive, you are an impediment to the team's success in a lot of situations when going up against elite competition if they're shot makers. That's why Max Kellerman and myself have the Brooklyn Nets as favorites. Why do we have them as favorites, Molly? Why do we have them as favorites, Max? We know they ain't elite defensively. We know that they are below average at best. We were making news about the Nets being ranked 25th as a defensive team and saying that's good enough because they are unstoppable.
Yeah, they score
offensively. Unstoppable. They're shot makers. And so when you compare LeBron and some of his recent struggles, particularly from the free throw line, in that regard, and obviously as a perimeter shooter overall, and you compare that to the marksmanship and the sniper-like capability of Kevin Durant, what would you rather have? I'd rather have Kevin Durant.
I would say it's very close. I'd say it's undetermined right now, but you're entitled to your opinion, as everyone is. I think LeBron is surprised that no one's opinion is that it's him, because Molly's right about the numbers. And in terms of the free throws, LeBron's not a bit like, if he hits about 70% of his free throws. It should be higher. It should be better. That's not a disaster. Out of every 10 trips to the line, or every 5 trips to the line, if it's not an and one, right? You're shooting 2 free throws, so you have 10 free throw shots, right? Out of every 10, KD will hit 2 more than LeBron. That means every 10 trips to the line, KD is worth 2 points more than LeBron. But LeBron more than makes up for that in other ways. Kevin Durant's turned into an excellent passer. LeBron James is among the very greatest passers who ever lived. He elevates the play of those around him, unlike anybody else. Mm-hmm. And so I think those 2 points at the free throw line, even in high leverage situations, LeBron has shown winning multiple championships, he can get over that. But this is my point, Stephen A. Let's say I don't expect the Lakers to win. And I'm not sure LeBron is still the best player in the world. I agree, it's an open debate. But let's say they do beat the Nets. Everyone's healthy, and they do beat the Nets. And LeBron is great, and so is KD. We will come on the air, everyone will come on the air the next day and say, the king still has his throne. LeBron James is still the best player in the world.
Sure.
That's why I say, if you want to silence the critics, then as you would say, no excuses. The Nets are a little better. Go beat them just like you beat the Warriors.
In fairness to you, credit where credit is due. You answered the question up front and directly. I didn't do that. So let me do that now. I don't believe that LeBron has to beat the Nets in order to silence the critics and validate his stature. I think that he has to make sure they win the West, and he has to make sure that when you look at a confrontation, an epic confrontation, and let's face reality. I mean, Max, we looking so forward to Brooklyn versus LA in the NBA Finals. I mean, kids that don't watch basketball looking forward to this. I mean, this is what it's all about.
Looking forward to Christmas.
Listen, everybody and their grandmother is we are praying. No disrespect to Milwaukee, no disrespect to the Clippers, Denver, anybody else.
Right.
There is no one who loves the game of basketball outside of fan bases in respective cities that is rooting for a matchup other than the Brooklyn Nets versus the Los Angeles Lakers. Everybody's rooting for it, okay? What I'm saying is, if you're LeBron, what you got to do is you ball out, and we got to make sure we got another finger to point in a different direction. It can't be you.
No, it won't work, Stephen A.
Wait a minute. You remember when he lost to Golden State? But you said he should have been the MVP?
Yes.
Remember another time in the first year? That was a different year. Remember when he went against KD for the first time when KD had his first year at Golden State?
Yep.
And he damn near averaged, I think he averaged a triple-double, 32 plus or whatever. We knew it wasn't him.
But Stephen
That's
A.,
what
think
he
about
has
it.
to make sure
Wait a minute, think
not
about
beating
that.
the Nets.
That's part of the puzzle piece. Those are puzzle pieces why KD is now considered the best. If he never won those championships, if he never won those finals MVPs, no matter how he's playing now, I don't think people would be so quick to just dismiss LeBron. But the fact is, as great as LeBron played, and I thought LeBron outplayed KD in both finals. Second one was close. Second one was a virtual tie. First one, clearly to me, LeBron was the best player.
Can't look at it that way, Max.
But they gave it to KD. They gave the MVP to KD, and that's really what started the ball rolling with maybe KD. That was the beginning of it. LeBron's got to win.
Hold on. This scene, I see, maybe unintentionally, to your credit, maybe you're not intentionally doing this, but this is where you disrespectful to KD, okay? This is where you disrespectful to KD. KD was playing with the greatest shooting backcourt in the history of basketball. The greatest shooter in Steph Curry ever alive, God ever created, and a top five shooter of all time in Klay Thompson, okay? So, and he was still the best player on his team. Still averaging over 30 in the finals, okay, on better than 52% shooting from the field. Let's remember that. So what I'm saying to you is this. When you look at KD and his elite performance, you can sit up there and point to LeBron, but LeBron had to carry the load.
Yes!
KD didn't have to do that. So in other words, when you're talking about how KD may not have looked as good as LeBron, it's because he wasn't required to.
No, wait a minute. It's much easier to play offense, as you know, when you have the two greatest shooters. You could argue Clay's the second greatest shooter, top 5. I mean, Clay's an incredible shooter. When you have those guys spacing the floor, it is so much. If you put LeBron James on a team with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, you know how much easier his life would be?
But Max, here's where you're selling KD short. I would be totally with you if I saw something offensively from him when he was in Golden State that I didn't see in OKC.
He's great.
Hold on, wait a minute. But the Kevin Durant we see offensively. Tell me what's the difference between Kevin Durant, just as an offensive player. Tell me what the difference is between KD and OKC, in Golden State, in Brooklyn. The brother is who he is.
Maybe I would say he got to be an even better passer in Golden State.
Why do you think KD said, you know who I am? You know who I am. Why do you think he said that? Because we know who the hell he is.
He also said on that sit-down with Draymond Green that we watched, he's tired of being number 2. Drafted number 2, always number 2. I don't think he's feeling like he's number 2 anymore.
Molly, the man tore his Achilles.
And he's back killing the game.
And while he had a torn Achilles, we still said he's good for 27 tonight. Think about that.
Yeah, in a wheelchair.
He's good for 27 tonight.
Absolutely. All right.
You know who he is.
Lakers, Nets, your lips to God's ears. I'm with that. All right, guys. Coming off that blowout weeks of the regular season last year, posting a perfect 11-0 record, outscoring their opponents by nearly 12 points per game over that span, and then it all came crashing down, Stephen A., just like your Cowboys, your Steelers too, over the final 5 weeks, dropping 4 regular season contests before falling to the Browns at home in the wild card round. Here's Big Ben.
I would love to get as many reps as I can. It's been how many months since I've actually stepped on a football field to take a hit or play I know it's preseason, but still just meaningful type reps. And so with the newness of it, I definitely like to get as much as I can.
Super Bowl champ with the Steelers, Ryan Clark, joining us now. RC, always good to see you, sir. We'll get to you in a minute. I'm going to start with Stephen A. here. Stephen A., are we overlooking your Steelers?
Hell yeah, you are. Hell yeah, you are. Let me tell y'all something, man.
Thinking, took the words out of my mouth.
Y'all can keep sleeping on. Y'all can keep sleeping on the Steelers if you want to. Okay, we coming. I'm just sick and tired. All of this love. The Browns just became relevant last year. Y'all act like they got some tradition. They've been around a long time. The hell with them. Only thing the Rams were about the dog pound. Okay, that's what it was about. All right, we didn't pay any attention to anything other than the dog pound until obviously the NFL, the franchise, they moved the franchise, and we felt bad for them because it's a great sports town, deserving of a football team, and ultimately they came back and then they finally got a quarterback in Baker Mayfield, but this dude wasn't ready at the time. They had a head coach named Kitchen.
Are you talking about the Steelers? Or are you just going to hate? Are you going to hate on every other team to distract?
All types of irrelevant stuff.
All other stuff to not actually have to talk about your team. That's what's happening right now.
I'm just saying. I'm talking about my team because I'm going to the AFC North. See, y'all trying to say Lamar Jackson. Everybody in love. Everybody in love with Lamar Jackson.
You love Lamar Jackson too.
Listen. The brother got skills running the football. Last time I recall, they had the worst passing attack in all of football last year. But they could run the football. Now, why am I high on my Steelers? Well, we know Minka Fitzpatrick in the crew and my man Devin Bush coming back. Stephon Tuitt is still there. Hayward and the crew is still there. The defense is real. And if Ryan Clark, if that man even utters a different word about if he even utters anything negative, hold on, I'm talking, Ryan. If he even utters a negative word about the damn Steelers defense, he should be banned from this show, okay? And Mike Tomlin should have let them at his facilities, all right? So the defense is going to be real. Now let's get to the offense. Max, I am aware that the offensive line has been a problem. I am aware of that, Max, okay? And they've lost some bodies on there, too. I'm very concerned. I'll admit that. But I got to believe in my man Mike T, and they're going to shore that up. So then we get to the other positions. Ben Roethlisberger in his ATC's got a lot to prove. We're going to see what's going to happen here. Look at the weapons. The Ebrons of the world. The Juju Smith-Schuster. He's got something making up to do. Doing too much damn stuff on TikTok last year instead of catching passes. He's going to make up for that this year, okay? You got Deontay Johnson. You got Chase Claypool, all right? Even though James Washington doesn't want to be there, damn it, he's still there. Deal with it, okay? And
What kind of word salad is this?
thank the Heavenly Father, the Heavenly Stars. They finally have a running back, all right? And Najee Harris. Where's he from, RC? Alabama. Let me tell you something, bro. We coming. The Steelers, they gonna win the North.
The best you got is we coming.
It ain't Toronto, y'all. It ain't Toronto. You not Toronto say we the North? It ain't Toronto. It's the Steelers. We the North.
What are you?
We the North.
What are you, Pennsylvania?
I'm telling y'all right now. You coming. Steelers coming, Max. You get that look off your face, Max. Steelers coming. Steelers coming.
Steelers have, when I look at the Steelers, I thought to myself at first, maybe I am overlooking them. They have a great head coach who's he's incapable of having a losing season. Yeah. He's too competitive no matter what you give him. Okay. No excuses. No quarterback, no second string quarterback. 8-8. I don't see him going 8-9. I see him with a winning record at least this year. And the Steelers, I'm trying to think of who has an elite defense in the NFL right now? Maybe the Steelers are one of two or three. I think of Washington. I think of Pittsburgh. Maybe those are the only two defenses where I go, those are elite defenses.
Tampa.
So yeah, right. 2 or 3. So they got a great defense. But when everyone's talking about Roethlisberger in his bounce back year, I hate to tell everyone, last year was the bounce back year. That was the bounce back year. He was 38 years old. He was coming off a catastrophic injury, missed a year, and came back and turned into a totally new quarterback. I was so impressed with that. Quick reads, get the ball out quick, accurate short passes. Wow, that's not Roethlisberger. That's hold the ball, take the hit, get the ball down the field. He really showed me something. And as the season wore on, he showed his age. And he also showed that because they could not commit to the run because they don't have run blocking. So as a result, everyone's playing up on those short passes, which makes it even harder to run. So just because you draft the running back and you're going to recommit to the run, maybe because you're committed it'll get a little better, but I don't anticipate big returns in the run game. And as a result, I think Roethlisberger by the end of the year is going to have a hard time of it again. Now you compare that to the other teams in the division. I don't care about the history of the Cleveland Browns. I care about the recent history. The recent history is they beat the Steelers at the end of the season to get into the playoffs, and they beat them again in the playoffs. And when they finally lost in the playoffs, it was to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs by 1 score. The Browns are coming. You talk about the Steelers are coming. The Browns are coming. Baker Mayfield finally had some stability and a head coach. He showed you he's a good quarterback. Odell Beckham Jr. is coming back, and he knows he's got to fit in because now everything was working without him. You're going to get the best version of Odell. They have 2 great backs. They have the best line in the game, blocking for the pass and protecting, for the run and protecting the passer. The best, number 1, both last year. And they don't have a Pittsburgh defense. They got a good defense. Browns are better than the Steelers. And by the way, the Ravens should be a little better than the Steelers too.
We had Steeler Steve and Mathematics Max, and you guys didn't answer the question. Stephen A just talked about we coming, and then Max just talked about who was better
I said
than
they're
the Pittsburgh
overlooking
Steelers.
the Steelers. I did say that.
The thing is this, though. Putting them in their right spot is not overlooking the Steelers. What Max did, I will give him, is he put them in the right spot. I do think the Cleveland Browns have a better roster than the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think if we remove quarterback, the Cleveland Browns probably have the second best total roster in the NFL behind the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah,
that's just the truth. That's just the truth.
Both
and
sides
then
of the
you
ball.
look at the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens have a younger quarterback, a more dynamic quarterback. The Baltimore Ravens also have a very good defense. And the Baltimore Ravens should be above the Steelers, too. If you'd watch NFL Live, Stephen A., you would have already known this answer because I had to rank them yesterday. But let's talk about the Steelers. Me what? Hush.
Are you saying you went on national TV and said the Steelers are going to finish in 3rd place?
I just said it again on national TV. I'm on national TV now. You don't have to ask a question you know the answer to already, Stephen.
You said the Steelers are going to finish in 3rd place?
The Steelers are the 3rd best team in the AFC North. Now, let's remember this. 3 teams from the AFC North went to the playoffs last year, right? 2 of those teams advanced past their first playoff game. So it doesn't mean that the Steelers won't be good. I believe the Steelers will have a winning record. I believe they have a championship defense. I also agree with you with the weapons on the outside. But when you replace 4 starters on the offensive line, when you just add a running back, it doesn't mean that Najee Harris is going to be what Ezekiel Elliott was to the Dallas Cowboys his rookie year. That's not always how it happens. It doesn't mean that he's going to be Saquon Barkley and what Saquon was his rookie year in New York. To me, he's not that type of talent. And so it's going to take a while for these things to get rolling. But I do believe in what Matt Canada does pre-snap. I do love the motions. I love the jet sweep. I think this can invigorate Big Ben, add some energy to the offense. But Steve, I'm not even going to call you Stephen A. Steeler Steve, you got to be a little grounded, bro. I know sometimes you got all this work going. You got Stephen A's world, and you had the basketball finals, and you're taking vacations, and you're doing all these things. Sometimes it gets clouded.
Hold on. Remember,
I need you to just sit around.
Since you brought up those things,
Okay.
I just finished taping a few scenes for Blackish.
Oh my gosh,
I just finished
bro.
doing that. All right. I'm expected to return to General Hospital because somebody's got to come to the rescue for the mob. Okay.
Gosh.
And I am hosting Jimmy Kimmel Live Monday night.
Well, you know what? Maybe that is why you couldn't take the time to prep for this answer and give us something other than we coming. Because
how is that? I didn't give you an answer other than that.
Because they gonna be
I didn't give you
third.
that. First of all, watch your tone. Don't be disrespectful. Secondly, Molly, I don't know what you laughing about with your Steelers colors on. You got on black and gold right now. So we know what you about, Molly. What you really about. That's number two.
Actually,
number three,
I'm burning my bad outfits, and you know that.
Number three, did I stutter? First of all, the reason why I have my head down is because I was in the process of texting Mike Tomlin to tell him to ban you from Steelers facilities. Let me tell you something right now. Oh, what a traitor you are. I knew you traded when you went to the Redskins. I knew you were a traitor. But that's neither here nor there. Here's the deal, y'all. Here's the deal. I'm going to say it again. Big Ben Roethlisberger can still play. I gave you 5 wideouts. You've had one of the worst 3 rushing attacks the last 3 years. So now we got a stud at the running back position to somewhat take some of the pressure off of Big Ben Roethlisberger, and we got an elite defense. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You got your
time. Stephen A., you got your time. You said we're coming.
Kellerman, when you sat up there, Max Kellerman, and you talked about Mike Tomlin and his press conference, what did he say?
Run the ball, stop the run. Steelers football.
What can the Steelers do this year? Run the football.
No, they can't run the football. I don't think so. I don't think they're going to run the football. And by the way,
is this conversation still happening?
Molly, no one overlooked the Steelers. Ryan and I looked over the Steelers and said they're third place in the division. We just looked them over and said third place.
I'm texting the Steelers right now.
Stephen A.
They should allow him on their facilities. This is blasphemy.
Stephen A.
That's blasphemy.
Stephen A. Time cues, right? Your Knicks might get out of the first round, and your Steelers are third in the Mahomes will have more motivation than maybe anyone this season after watching the confetti fall in Tampa in February. Many would argue Kansas City got even better this offseason, bolstering their offensive line. So with that being said, Max, do you think Mahomes will have his best year yet?
I do. I think Mahomes is gonna reach new heights. Let's not forget, as a rookie, well, as a first year quarterback, the first time he started for the year, 50 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and if not for a pre-snap penalty, I think they win the Super Bowl that year. They certainly go to the Super Bowl, and I think they would have beaten the Rams. Next year, he won the Super Bowl, and his touchdown-interception ratio got better, though the total numbers went down a little bit, and partly because he missed a couple games. And then last year, he was, great as usual. They made the Super Bowl, but the offensive line fell apart because it was badly banged up. They were missing a lot of guys, both starting tackles who were both very good. It's not simply that they revamped the line, Stephen A. They went out and got an all-pro caliber left tackle, an all-pro caliber left guard, a good starting center in Austin Blythe. They took him from the Rams, and I remember reading about how the Rams were hoping that Creed Humphrey would fall to them in the draft. They'd be able to take him at center. At least there was speculation. Guess who got Creed Humphrey? That's right, the Chiefs. And now Blythe probably doesn't even start at center. You could not have done a better job rebuilding a line. Their line should be among the best in football, certainly top 10. And maybe they start a little slowly because a lot of that's continuity and learning each other and everything. I think by the second half of the season, the Chiefs will be in the conversation for best offensive line in the game, top 5. Remmers isn't bad. He's on the right side. So now what else do you have? So the running game's going to be good because that's what running game really is. It's not the running back. He can give you a premium. It's mainly the offensive line. Lots of guys can run the ball. That's why running backs don't get paid, right? Hilaire can run the ball and catch the ball. We know about Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. And then there's Patrick Mahomes, who should be entering his prime, Stephen A., with a great head coach and a chip on his shoulder after the Super Bowl. I would not be surprised if Patrick Mahomes threw for 50 touchdowns, cut the interceptions from his rookie year from 12 down to single digits, won the MVP, and won the Super Bowl MVP this season.
Well, he's thrown single-digit interceptions the last 2 years, so that's not really stepping out there. He's definitely capable of doing it because he's shown us he's already done it. I think that the number, if I remember correctly, he's thrown like 114 touchdowns to 23 interceptions in his 3 years as a starter for the Kansas City Chiefs. Fair enough. All right. And I know how electrifying he is, and he's the man right now. There's no doubt about it. He's Super Bowl champion. You know, I mean, you run out of superlatives to say about Patrick Mahomes. Here's what I will tell you. I'm not so sure this will be his best season. I'm not sold on that. As a matter of fact, I'm willing to say it will not be. It was not to say he's not going to have a really, really good season, that Kansas City is not going to make the playoffs and they're not going to be the favorites to go to the Super Bowl. All those things may be true. But I think the road to prosperity will be a bit more difficult, even though he's on his revenge tour. He wants to avenge the shellacking that they took in the Super Bowl. I get that. Plus, his foot is healed now that he's had surgery on it. He got a buffered up offensive line. Got all of that. Get it. Understand it. But I go to the schedule, Max. Are you listening? Game 1 of the season, September 12th, right? They got the Browns.
Tough one.
Game 2, Ravens. Game 3, Chargers. 4, Eagles. 5, Buffalo Bills. 6, Washington football team.
A lot of good
7,
defenses.
Titans. Okay? Then they got a bye with the Giants. Then 9th, they got the Packers. Okay? They got the Packers.
Hey, I caught that Giants dig.
All right?
Knock
I
it
know
off.
you did.
Yeah.
I know you did. By the way, they got the Raiders after that. Raiders beat them once last year, okay? You got the Cowboys. Well, they got that game, okay? So I'm just looking at some of these schedules, and I'm just saying to myself, you know something? There's a formula. It's going to be hard to execute, but if you got cats committed to putting a hat on these brothers and getting physical with this greatest show on turf, modern day era type offense, it can cause some wrinkles. It can cause some problems. Doesn't mean that you'll beat them, but it does mean that how they win will be a bit more arduous than we were accustomed to seeing
Stephen
from
A.
the last couple of seasons, and that's where I'm at about the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes.
Actually, I think the one thing that could keep Mahomes' numbers down, you talk about his best season, is that they will, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, in that offense, they pass the ball early in the game and early down situations, right? Like they get those plays then. It may be that they run up the score on these defenses you're talking about to the point where Mahomes ain't airing it out in the second half or late in games, which could keep his totals down. That for me would be the biggest concern. The Chiefs, when you talk about like getting physical on offense, that's why you build the line the way you do. That's why you have the kind of line and even depth on the line now that the Chiefs have, is so the other team can't get physical. To me, the only issue with the Chiefs that could hold them back, and knock wood, this doesn't happen, but if they have an injury to either Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce, that could devastate them because they're not very deep at the receiving position. They have incredible high-end talent, but they lack a little depth. So if something like that happens, then maybe it would keep his numbers down. I'm just telling you right now, if this team stays healthy, Patrick Mahomes is going to have, he might put together the greatest season of all time this year. He might put together the greatest quarterback season of all time. He's in his physical, like everything. You even mentioned the foot's better, everything.
Well, see, here's my thinking, Max. I don't think it's going to happen, number one. Number two, one of the biggest reasons I think it's not going to happen is because everything you just said. See, in the game of football, when you are that phenomenal, when you are that prolific, their only hope is to try and beat you up. This is a relatively finesse team. And they got exposed when they went against Tampa because Tampa had some Rough Riders on there that people didn't pay enough attention to, thinking they out there in Central Florida just chilling. Them brothers, some Rough Riders on the defensive side of the ball, and they played like it. And I'm saying to you, particularly when you bring into question the lack of depth, or bringing to the forefront the issue of lack of depth.
At receiver.
I don't believe that everybody's going to remain healthy on Kansas City. They're going to get compromised. You know why? Because even in other sports, Max, particularly like the game of basketball, when a team is superior and they can just run roughshod over anybody, what do teams usually try to do to them? They try to get physical.
Sure, of course.
Why is it the NBA? Why is it that the NBA changed the rules?
Stephen A., but I'd be more worried about
the
the Chiefs' defense than I would the offense.
Well, what I'm saying to you is the defense going to give up. The defense is going to give up some points.
Yeah.
But the offense is so potent, so prolific that you're going to see cats getting physical because even though football is a physical sport, and they're going to do that naturally. I'm just saying they're going to prioritize it because they're going to reach the conclusion it's the only way we can stop them.
Actually, if the defense doesn't hold, and I think they'll be at least middle of the pack defense, Mahomes' numbers are going to be bananas because they're going to have to go
Gotta move
shootouts.
the chains, peeps. Let's move it forward. Head pressure. It's a privilege. All week we've been counting down Stephen A. and Max's top 5 players with the most pressure on them heading into the season, and now we're at number 2. Stephen A. and Max both have Carson Wentz, who's recovering from foot surgery and hoping to be ready week 1 for the Colts. Max, why is Wentz number 2?
Is this a trick question?
No.
Carson Wentz during the regular season, until the playoffs, he might be number 1. He lost his job. He was given a huge contract. They had to draft a guy behind him, and then he lost his job and got traded. He's reunited with his coach, right? He had success with. He has one of the best offensive lines in football. He has very solid skills position players. They can run the ball. They got guys who can catch the ball. I guess T.Y. Hilton isn't what he once was, but they got it. They have a really good defense. They replaced the linebackers. He has everything he needs. No excuses. And by the way, they all said they're a quarterback away from contending for a Super Bowl.
All right, now it's time to reveal both of your number 1 players under pressure. Stephen A., you say it's Dak Prescott, and Max, you're going with Matthew Stafford, obviously in LA. Stephen A., why is Dak under the most pressure?
We spent nearly 2 years talking about how he deserved his money, how he needed his money, how ashamed Jerry Jones should be of himself for procrastinating and taking care of everybody around him, but not him. From Ezekiel Elliott to Amari Cooper, to Jalen Smith, to DeMarcus Lawrence. The list goes on and on. There were so many players that were taken care of, but it wasn't your quarterback, which we felt was inexcusable and just reprehensible. At least most of us did. All right. Well, you finally got your money, even after you got injured, because even after you got injured and broke your ankle and all of that stuff, you got your money after that. Jerry Jones placed an incredible amount of faith in you. And look at the offense he's giving you. He kept the same offensive coordinator you've been working with, so there's familiarity and cohesiveness there. Your running back is still Ezekiel Elliott, who's still a stud, no way around that. And then you look at the combination of Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb. You got weapons all over the place. And your offensive line is supposed to be healthier this year. And so when you look at all of those things combined with the fact that you're playing in arguably the weakest division in all of football, which is called the NFC least, where you got somebody winning the division crown with a 7-9 record last year. You damn right there's some pressure on Dak Prescott. And I didn't even bring up America's team and the billion-dollar playpen you play in. And the fact that because you're a Cowboy with the star in your helmets and at midfield and all of this other stuff, you got all of these nationally televised games everywhere. All of those things play a significant role in Dak Prescott being under more pressure than anybody in the National Football League to produce.
I could not disagree more. I don't think that Dak Prescott's going to have a lot of eyeballs on him. But he'll have, if they don't win, there'll be a list of excuses, a laundry list before you get to Dak Prescott. They'll blame if he gets hurt, it'll be the injuries. That's not his fault. It'll be the head coach, Mike McCarthy. It'll be the defense. You know why? Because he is now where Matt Stafford was a decade ago. We all believe he's good. We all believe he's really good. It's not his fault. And by the way, he's got the O-line back. He's got crazy receivers to run a game. He'll be fine. No, that's not pressure. Want to know what pressure is? Imagine this for a second. Imagine you get to the playoffs, and the Rams are likely to get to the playoffs. We all think they're a playoff team. It's game 1 of the playoffs. Even if you're favored, you're playing a good team. That other team's going to have a shot, even if it's like a 60-40 type situation. 40% is a good shot to hit. You have a 40% shot, you go, I got a pretty good shot to hit, right? You'll have a good shot to lose that game. Just imagine if Matthew Stafford, who they traded Jared Goff, number 1 overall pick, 2-time Pro Bowler, got to a Super Bowl. They traded him plus 2 firsts and a third to Stafford. You know why? Because Matthew Stafford, it's not his fault. He was then where Dak is now. He's excellent. He's just, the team can't get it together. Never won a playoff game. Well, let's get him with a good team. They moved mountains to bring him in. He's got a great offensive head coach. He's got the offensive line. He's got great receivers. He's got a defense. He's got every single thing you could want. Now, just imagine Matt Stafford loses the first playoff game of the postseason. There's no more pressure, maybe on anyone in sports, than on Matt Stafford in that situation. And he's very likely to be in that situation. His entire legacy will get thrown out. The idea that, well, it's the Lions' fault, will say, oh, no. It's not on the Lions. That's on Matt Stafford. But if he wins a couple of playoff games, if he gets to a Super Bowl, there is no one facing more downside, no one with more upside than Matt Stafford. That's the most pressure.
First of all, if they lose, barely anybody in Los Angeles would notice. I mean, let alone the nation. Just stop it, okay? Now, obviously, that Matthew Stafford, there's some pressure because, you got to win a playoff game. But come on. I mean, you playing for the Los Angeles Rams. A lot of distractions out here, Max. A lot of distractions.
No doubt.
And as a result of that, you're not going to have too many people paying but so much attention. I mean, it's much, much worse for the Chargers in terms of a fan base, no doubt, because this is Rams country compared to the Chargers, no doubt about that. But still in all, barely anybody outside of L.A. is going to notice if Matthew Stafford wets the bed. That's number one. Number two, let's look at some of the weapons. I mean, I think Robin Woods can play. I think Cooper Kupp can play. Yeah, but they ain't the all-world dudes like
They're
that.
really
People ain't
good.
looking at them like that. And this kid, Van Jefferson, we don't know. And then you got Cam Akers that went out. Because he got injured, okay, so he's out for the year. You got Darrell Henderson, he's going to be there now. He ran for over 600 yards. They were dual backfield right there. They did some good things last year. I'm just saying. And also, you got to look at Sean McVay. Some people think Sean McVay is more in hot water than a Matthew Stafford. And you got to remember. No. I'm just talking about in terms of criticism. He ain't losing his job. I'm not trying to imply that. He's a damn good coach, by the way, too. I'm not trying to imply that. I'm just talking about heat in terms of expectations. And when you look at Sean McVay, you got to remember something, Max. Jared Goff, the relationship just it fragmented and fell apart. I mean, they were desperate to get rid of Jared Goff. It wasn't like, oh, it's this blockbuster deal that we can't turn down. They were saying, could you take him off our hands, please? We need to get rid of this dude. And they're happy they got Matthew Stafford, who's definitely an upgrade in my estimation.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that pales in comparison to what you got to deal with.
Oh,
You're
saying because L.A. is not as focused on the Rams as Dallas is
We
on
gotta
the
wrap it
Cowboys.
up.
Nationally, there's huge roles. And by the way, when you take shots at the Rams receivers, that outside zone block, the whole kind of concept of their offense that it's based on, guys like Robert Woods, for example. Robert Woods is pivotal there, not just as a receiver, but as a blocker. They have a team ready to win the Super Bowl.
I'd actually say
Stafford.
the most pressure is on Ezekiel Elliott because he's got to have a bounce back year and keep that defense off the field.
Well, this was about quarterbacks, though.
No. I'm just adding.
Right.
Yeah. Coming up, if the Nets didn't already have a big enough target on their back, James Harden just made it bigger. New comments ahead from the Beard.
You can touch that floor, be ready to perform and do whatever it takes to get the win.
Brooklyn, stand up!
Coming for the top, but who gon' say a word to stop us? You know the squad don't fit no competition. Hold up, slept on our greatness long enough. Now we gon' run the score up.
We have a standard of greatness, and I think every day we get a chance to prove that.
I want to be there when it's time, but I love what we're building.
Who gon' stop us now?
Despite having 3 of the best players in the NBA and not making it to the finals last season, the Nets don't feel like there's a chip on their shoulder going into the year, according to James Harden in an interview with GQ. There's no chip at all, no chip for us. We're just excited. We're focused. We know what we have to do. The biggest thing is us being healthy, which we will be. Honestly, we're just excited to play a whole season together. That's the exciting part. When asked why he thinks next season is the year they'll capture his first NBA title, Harden said, at full strength, nobody can beat us. I'm just going to leave it at that.
I'm glad we ended with that quote because it's such a
me.
bad look seeing James Harden's face and the quote, no chip for us.
Yeah.
That's a bad look.
For sure. I like that one, though. Nobody can beat us, and I'm going to leave it at that. Stephen A., of the Nets' big 3, who has the most on the line?
Harden. Last time I checked, Kyrie Irving is a champion. Kevin Durant is a 2-time champion. James Harden has never won a championship. And the only time he's played in the finals is when he was a reserve. I would remind everybody that we're not only talking about being absent of a chip, we're also talking about one of the greatest offensive players the game has ever seen. In the last 5 years, before last season, James Harden clearly came into camp out of shape. He wanted out of Houston. They told him they weren't going to move him, so he didn't work out. He didn't do it on purpose because he wanted to get out of Houston that bad, and it ultimately worked because he wanted to get to Brooklyn, and that is what ended up happening. I will remind you that when you look at Harden, in the last 5 years, the previous 5 seasons, 29, 29.1, and then he was a 3-time scoring champion, 30.4 points a game, 36.1 points a game, 34.3 points a game. And in the midst of all of that, won league MVP honors one of those years and was a runner-up at least once, possibly twice. The brother is a superstar offensive player, make no mistake about it. And we know what he was capable of doing, and we had championship expectations for him, at least to some degree, when he was the man in Houston. Now, not only are you in Brooklyn, and not only are you in Brooklyn with the likes of Kevin Durant, but you're also there with Kyrie Irving. So when fully loaded, healthy, and a full season under their belt, he is absolutely right. There is no one who can beat them. But if we discover that there is somebody, folks going to look at him.
That depends on how he plays.
That's what I mean.
James Harden, game for game last year, fat and out of shape and all. Showed up in Brooklyn, like I always say, looking a hot mess, fat and out of shape. Was the best player in the NBA game for game. Like, this dude is on another level. He's great. But in regular season, he has yet to be a crunch time, big time playoff performer. I'll give you that. That's not who has the most on the line. And it's not Kyrie Irving either. There's one man who so many people now, including you, are saying is better than LeBron James. That has not happened in LeBron James's career since he, became the best player in the world. What is it, 10 years now? No one until now, not no one, but the majority of people until this moment have never looked at another player. Rather than regular season, this guy gets the MVP, that guy, best player in the world, and said, that guy is better than LeBron. It's to the point now where LeBron's using it as motivation publicly. They're doing it now for Kevin Durant. Our colleague, played 10, 11 years in the league, Ryan Hollins, Stephen A, is out there. He's the best offensive player of all time. And he's not the only one saying it. Lots of people are saying it. And by the way, before the Achilles, he was a great defender, and he still takes on tough defensive assignments. He's a great passer, the whole thing. Kevin Durant has elevated himself to the point where he will be in the GOAT conversation pretty soon if he keeps this up and they win championships. But if they don't, they're going to say, KD, what do you need? You joined a 73-win team that couldn't lose. By the way, they almost lost to the Rockets. But right, and you got Finals MVPs. When you formed your own super team, like, what do you need? Harden and Kyrie, and Blake looks good again, and Harris and everybody. It's not enough. You still lost? No. No one has more on the line than the guy that people like you, Stephen A., are saying now, where's the crown? That's the guy with the most on the line. It's KD.
Max, I think that's a great argument on your part. One of your better arguments, no doubt about it. The problem is we've seen what a colossal impact a star who doesn't show up can have on the rest of the team. And if that happens to be James Harden, which I don't believe will happen. I'm picking Brooklyn to win the chip, and I think James Harden's going to show up and he's going to play lights out.
So do I.
But if by any chance that doesn't happen, he's such a big-time name himself, Max, that nobody's going to turn and look at KD. They're going to look right at him. That's what I'm saying. See, if everybody plays within themselves and somehow you don't get it done, there's no excuse. Of course, you're right about KD. But if you're James Harden, you're such a prolific name, you don't get to hide. And if you don't show up and you don't perform, you're not going to be able to hide behind KD and live in obscurity. Everybody's going to pull you out to the forefront because we've seen KD and we've seen his heroics and we've seen how electrifying he can be, okay? And he's just a hooper. And so if he continues to do what he does, which we all suspect is exactly what he will do, and somehow, some way, Harden doesn't show up, then we're going to look at Harden because Harden's a big-time name. Listen, he's not going to escape us, and we're not going to be focused on KD and how KD brought this team together and he didn't get it done. If KD's averaging 40 on 50% shooting or better and better than 40% from three-point range, and he's killing it, but he's looking at his weapons and they don't show.
Well, look, if guys, whoever, like if Kyrie doesn't show up and the other two are balling out and they lose, it'll be on Kyrie. Same thing with KD. Now, you could say more likely that Harden doesn't show up given his postseason track record. I'll agree with you there. But in terms of just who has the most on the line, look, whether it's fair or not, and if KD's watching, I'm sure he's going to be like, there they go, the stupid media narrative, right? But when you don't win it, the mistakes of your past are amplified, right? And what you've done great recedes a little bit, and vice versa. The fact of the matter is, what more could KD have done? He was missing his whole crew. Don't airball the three with the series on the line in overtime of Game 7, right, against the eventual champs, right? Try that. You don't do that, and you're still playing, and maybe you guys get healthy, maybe you do win the title. But the fact of the matter is, not just the foot on the line for KD in Game 7, where he hit the shot, he airballed the final shot of the game, and they lost as a result. If he hits it, they win. Miss it, they lose. Didn't even hit the rim, right? Now,
you can't,
in the context
just say he missed the shot. Don't focus on it like that.
Well,
like there was some choke jobs. He played every minute. Steve Nash didn't give him a second's rest.
Well, let me ask you something.
And he was dropping 40 plus.
Hold up. Here's where it's different for KD than Harden or anyone else. This is my point. When you are in the stratosphere that KD is, he didn't ask for this. His own greatness brought him there. But this is what we do. I will ask you, is there any universe that you can simulate 1 billion times where Michael Jordan airballs a three in Game 7 overtime, win or go home? Any scenario. He ain't never going to do it. Maybe he misses it. He ain't never going to airball it.
Yeah,
KD is that great. He's being compared to Jordan and LeBron and the greatest who ever did it.
Not Magic. Michael Jordan won all 6 titles with Phil Jackson as his coach. Michael Jordan got a breather to drink some Gatorade or something. I mean, damn. I mean, KD didn't get any rest.
I'm not blaming KD, Stephen A. What I'm saying is...
Well, you're bringing up the air ball. Well, why can't you say he just missed the shot?
What I'm saying is...
You're bringing up the air ball.
Right. Well, he was tired. I get it. What I'm saying is there's more on the line for KD. Everything will be magnified, amplified. The mistakes of the past, the successes of the past, if they win